Modoh.
Hey guys, welcome back to 3 Degrees of Love, 3 Degrees of Love Divination. Thank you for joining me today, Priscilla and Ruth. Priscilla from A Life Full of Simplicity, and Ruth, who is the creator of the Emotional Kaleidoscope deck. And of course, I've had you with Mary on before earlier this year, and we did, a Bell Let's Talk Day sort of tribute video talking about mental health. But the reason why I really wanted to do this video today, other than to highlight your deck, but because, well, we're filming this on Sunday, which is also in Canada, it's our Thanksgiving weekend. Giving thanks for our health and our community and friendship and all of that. But, you know, again, because, again, being the type of person that I am, and I think actually this past week I saw what was, I guess, a news article, and they were talking about just the economy. And one of the things was that I saw where they talked about and compared like the 1930s, right, when they had the Great Depression. And if I find it, I will put it up on screen, because it was like a breakdown of society and finances, and with the cost of living and everything going up, right? And how that affects families, that affects people in general, right? Mentally speaking, and to do with what they have to do to live life. And they talked about the I think at the time of the Great Depression, one of the things was the cost of living in comparison to the average salary. And that was, at that time, was probably, maybe, don't quote me on this, because like I said, if I find it, I'll put it up. But I think it was like a maybe 13 to 18% of of what a person's average salary was, based on what their living expenses were, right? Including rent, car, whatever. Now, in this day and age, after we've survived a pandemic and all of that stuff, it's, with the cost of living and everything, it shows that the average salary and living expenses is about over 40 some odd percent of the average salary, which is crazy. Because if we're living in society and the world, and people have their families to take care of, they have their jobs to go to, whatever living like, it's, and not even to mention whatever health concerns people are already having to dealing with, right? And that sort of disconnect that I find in society. And when I guess I talk about love and community and and that kind of thing, to me, it all starts with the perception and the mind, and how we view each other, and we see each other and stuff like that. um and there, of course, there's so much more to it, and you guys would be the perfect people to talk to about, because you guys have the experience in psychology. And and so why too, I we enjoy tarot, we're all about spirituality and things like that. And so it comes down to some of the tools that we use to help us to you know live better lives, cohesive lives, not just within ourselves, but how we interact with everyone else, right? And so when I, and we've already been over this, but like when I first discovered your deck, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So, and then exploring it a little bit more, but then after my video with Priscilla, and we were talking again about psychology and Carl Jung and all of those things. Then it started,
Mhm.
I started, really thinking about, well, there's more to that. And then circling back to your deck, Ruth, and you being, psychology and how you came up with formulating this deck. So I want to know more about how that came about, and also bringing in Priscilla into this, because with her psychology based background, her having the opportunity to see the deck, use the deck, and and also put in her 2 cents and how she sees that benefiting, you know, a practice as well, right? And combining that with tarot. So I figured, why not? Like, let's do this. It's Global Mental Health Day coming up. This is what I'm all about. This is what, we seem to be about. So why not? So yeah, please. Let's start us off with the story behind this deck, how it came to
Yeah.
use and how you use it.
Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Ruth. I am the deck creator of Emotional Collidescope, which essentially is a 90 card deck that rolls through three different, I guess, stages of consciousness. And it's designed essentially to, I guess, create open dialogue around mental health. More so about mental well-being, just emotional well-being on top of that, and just opening just dialogue in general. And I think for the most part, we have a difficult time generating deeper connections. It's very hard to jump into something that is very deep when you have limited time or limited space or limited emotional bandwidth with certain people because everyone's busy, everyone has things to do. And what this deck does is it just slows time down so that you can create a space and learn to give affinity to one another. So it's kind of like therapeutic conversations with one another. And nobody has to be, I guess, licensed or have a degree in mental health to have these types of conversations because the cards are putting the onus on itself. It's not me saying, hey, Alana, I want you to really dive deep into your personal life and your backstory into how you became this and that and what type of trauma brought you about to the current state of where you're at. Like it doesn't force that, I guess, that, I guess, that direction and how you should converse about these kind of things. It doesn't, it kind of breaks down the stigma around how scary these types of conversations can be. So Emotional Kaleidoscope is 90 cards that help prompt deeper conversations around emotional and mental well-being. It also just helps create space for you to dive into yourself if you're not using it in a group setting or one-on-one with somebody else because they can be used as journal prompts. Each card has a unique piece of inkblot artwork, which is also known as klexography. And I think most people that um, are somewhat uh, cognizant of what inkblot is can relate that to the Rorschach inkblot um, test that they used back in the 70s, I believe, to diagnose and uh, further investigate schizophrenia. I believe that's when it was originally used for. So yes, that's the deck in a nutshell, is that it is a tool to help generate deeper conversations and just to create space for you yourself personally or for you to engage with other people And just to discuss in more detail, or as deep as you want, emotional and mental health well-being. Um, and that kind of just generated because this deck was a passion project that had stemmed due to the pandemic. So 2022 was a lot of make or break for everybody. And I definitely hit a breaking point where I felt isolated, alone, and I needed support, but my support network wasn't in the same country as me. So I wanted to have the same types of conversations that I would normally on a day-to-day basis with people physically, but I couldn't because all these barriers had been instilled, mandates were in effect, and now I'm left with nothing. So I decided to create something that would help me get to know my friends and myself better. And the deck originally started with 150 questions, and I had beta testing with friends of friends, and then condensed the questions down to 90 and had used Sigmund Freud's three levels of consciousness as I guess, as a guideline as to how to break things up. So with the three levels, 30 questions per level, so 90 questions altogether. And yeah, I don't know what else to go off on right now, but
So I guess what I would like to know is like, and that's amazing. Like I guess my disclosure would be, like therapy is an important tool, especially for those that are suffering with, with actual mental health issues, anxiety and depression. And a lot of people are facing those things today. And of course, the pandemic did not help but amplify those things, if you will. And even people who may not have had any struggle with, those kinds of things, even they were beginning to experience things, which is why we're in this, as you will, silent depression, as they, as I kind of was when I was talking earlier about the comparison, right? We had the Great Depression, but what they consider now that we're going into is the silent depression. And you know and even in when I say my personal experience, as a person, I openly talk about my own mental health concerns and suffering from depression and burning out in the field and things like that, and anxiety and stuff like that. So I will never shun away from professional help and always say that that's the first and foremost thing. But when we don't have access to that, or it's very limiting and we have barriers, what are some healthy alternatives that we can turn to? And that's why, again, I'm bringing it right back to your deck, and why I feel like it's important. It's an important tool, not just for the individual introspection, but can be used in a family setting, but also can be used to enhance any therapy session, whether it is guided with, a professional therapist, or even if it was something that, like, for me, for example, having that sort of experience, in counseling work and in life skills facilitation and stuff like that. But as I attend my regular therapy sessions, this isn't a tool that, even after, as I reflect on certain things, I can turn to in my own spiritual practice, use this deck in combination to even uncover things further that maybe I didn't have time to explore in my therapy session, because therapy is only an hour long. So, and before you know it, it's done, right?
yeah,
Until the next session. So, when you want to explore further, to me, that's where this is an amazing tool to come in. And I also, the other thing that I wanted to know about is, as you were explaining how you created the deck. Now, how did you even, like, how did your artists come into play? Like, what prompted even the, what did you call the word that you used to describe the art?
Is plexography. So the genre of the art is plexography. And quite like this was quite a long process in terms of trying to figure out what artwork would best suit questions of this nature and to follow it within a psychology theme as well. And I had sort of various themes to go ahead with. And a lot of them just didn't stick well with me. Like, because there are 90 cards, 90 questions, I wanted each card to have its own like signifier on it. And I guess plexography came to mind, but the Rorschach ink blot test only has 12 images to go off. So I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. I can't just have 12 images reoccurring all the time. I want something different. And I want the user to see something different all the time. So with the help of my boyfriend, we had gone through the hashtag plexography on Instagram and found various artists that were posting plexography type artwork. And that's how I had reached out to several artists. And then we selected 3 and ran with that, ran and explained the project of what was happening, got them to sit down with their partner or their friend or their significant other to go through the questions themselves and then decide if this is something they want to partake. And all 3 of them did it. They all had a really good time. And they were like, yes, this is something I want my art to be associated with. This is a project that I can get behind and back. So let's do it. I went through their portfolios of artwork that they had and had to just choose 30, which was very difficult because these guys have so much artwork, so much. So just choosing 30 that sat well and I thought were, I guess, conversation inducing to put on the cards. I was like, okay, this is it. I chose 30 from each of you, and that's what we'll roll with. And then it came to deciding which artwork would be situated like on the deck itself and like the box as well. Like, you know, as you go through it and as you open the deck up and open the cards up and the box and everything, there's like an image from each artist. So this is from Steph, this is from Michael, and this is from Giovanni. So it's not just that I'm showcasing the one artist, it's all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I wanted to be like moving forward. I wanted all 3 of them to always have somewhere to be seen on this deck. So that's
You know,
that's
it's
how
funny because
that came
as
about.
I'm sorry, as I'm listening to you talk, I just happened to notice on the pullout at
Mm-hmm.
right here that this is where the heart and mind meet.
Yeah,
Like the mind, right? And so
yeah,
the idea of what we think and what we feel and the fact that, you know, it it needs to be a collaboration, right? And our the way our heart and our brain, everything needs to sort of be on the same page. Like that's the ideal, right? And that,
mm,
and
yeah.
of course life can really misconstrue that for everybody, right? So yeah, I just happened to look and was like, wait a second, that's a brain and a heart. Like, what, how did I not see that before?
Yeah.
So, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
like, but then again, this is it just So it again, it's like another solidifier, if you will. Like, this is why I love this deck. So I want to know, Priscilla, since you've had the
Mm.
deck, and I know a walkthrough is coming, but
Yeah.
what what are your thoughts as being, with the same background as Ruth, and
Hmm.
and having the time to explore the deck and have the deck in your hands? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I did film an unboxing of the deck. It'll be up in November. And I have to say I really love it. I love your deck very much. And thank you again for sending it to me. I really
Oh, of
appreciate
course.
it. I did actually talk about the psychology behind the conscious, pre-conscious, and subconscious in my video because we did talk about it, Alana, in our video together
Yeah.
about the iceberg model. So
Yes.
I didn't touch upon this particular terminology. I actually, and it all comes from Freud. So I did explain that in my video as well, in regards to the fact that, the conscious is the highest level. So it's usually seen, if you look at an iceberg, it's the
Yes.
iceberg part that's outside of the water that's actually showing, and that's usually where you find the ego. And then you have the subconscious, which is underneath the water, and that's where you find the id in regards to Freud. And then the preconscious would be in the middle, and it literally includes both of them, as well as the superego, which would be in the center of the two. So I did talk about that because we talked about it last time in our video, and the fact that your deck is based on those levels of consciousness from Freud. I thought it was good to explain again the in my video again
No.
the different levels and everything, because I'm
Yes.
not sure
Mhm.
how everyone knows that, because Freud is not used as much nowadays as previously because he's been debunked in a lot of things. So
Yeah.
people look more other. We still learn it in history, but people don't look to him as much,
Mhm.
and whatnot. And I love the fact that your deck, well, yes, it focuses on mental health and those kind of topics. To me, I focus more on it being like a shadow work thing. So,
Mhm.
um, shadow work more derived by his um I guess prodigy. I don't even know what you would call him, but Carl Jung, who was
Yeah.
below Freud, and Freud was actually his mentor and teacher and whatnot. And I consider this a great tool for shadow work. So I actually went through all the questions. I thought they were really good. I like the fact that you can use it with other people. I do like the fact that you can actually just pull a card. You don't need to, you could go through and pick which one you would want to answer, but you could also just shuffle out a card,
Mm.
read it, and then use it for journaling and just as a fun journaling tool. I did say also in my video that this would be great as a tool to build tarot spreads surrounding
Yeah.
shadow work. So there were some things that I really liked, and I was like thinking about doing a video. I haven't done it yet, but I was thinking of doing a video where I would pull a card and then talk about how you can take this and build a spread from it and do something shadow work related. Um, it's definitely a great deck to really get to know yourself and dive deeper into certain topics that you might be feeling like you can't really address, or maybe something you haven't addressed, or maybe something deep down that you just don't know about, and you look at this and you're like, you know what, maybe I should dive deeper into this because it's something that's been bothering me. So I really
Mm.
like that. I myself plan to use it. I do run, or not run, I'm in a community that I host a shadow work chat in. So I do plan to use these as like prompts for the chat to get discussion from other people, because I do think this is a great way to get people talking.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would use this in person specifically. I did say that in my video, just like with a group of people. I don't know if I would do that, but I definitely love this as just more of a journaling. And I do think this would be beneficial for people who are in therapy and want to do extra work outside of therapy as well. I think that's really fantastic. And I love the fact that they're separated into three categories. So if you're looking to specifically focus on a specific category, rather if it would be like the subconscious, for example, you can go straight to the category and be like, okay, let me see what in the subconscious do I want to focus on, and just read through the questions and pick one that you really enjoy. Or if you're looking for a particular topic, you could go through everything and find a particular topic that maybe you want to dive deeper in, because you have several that are like inner child based, in my opinion. You have some on boundaries, relationships, and things like that. So I feel like some can like really, you can like just pick a card or a topic and just pick a few cards and do work specifically on that specifically, which I really like as well. I did find it interesting that you had like different colors. So the conscious are all white, and then the subconscious are all black, and then you had a mix for the pre-conscious with white and black. I thought that was really cool. Um, and I think they're all equal, right? They're all 30 cards each. I
Yeah,
didn't count,
that's
but yeah,
correct. No, that's correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really love that. I think this will be a great tool. And hopefully once my video comes out, maybe people will get it and will be really interested, because I know several people that follow me and watch my videos that are really into shadow work. So maybe
Mhm.
it's something that maybe they don't know about, and once it's out, they'll look into it and maybe purchase it for themselves. Because I
Yeah,
do recommend it. I highly recommend this. This is actually a great deck. I didn't even know about it until Alana mentioned it.
yeah. I
So
think it's definitely helpful in terms of like shadow work and inner child work.
100%.
A lot of those questions that were formulated and that did stay after the beta testing when I
Hmm.
reduced it down from 150 to 90
Okay.
were all questions that I felt like were things that I had seen in conversation that needed more spotlight on. Like
Hmm.
when you say people want to dive in deeper and they maybe don't know about it,
Yeah.
I think people do know about it. They just never gave thought to it. And it's just
100%.
something that lingers in the back of the mind, or it's something that isn't fully approached because there is some form of like fear behind what happens if I open this door and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I've had several therapists buy the deck and mention that they were local like counselors or therapists within my area. And they all said that it was good to have a resource like this with their clients that weren't really able to open up because there was the aspect of having the artwork there for them to just use that as an icebreaker, really, to talking about, their emotions or their feelings or whatever it is that is, I guess, giving them discomfort, and then having the question behind it and having that piece of artwork just help complement the question or help prompt the question to go
Yeah.
into further like introspective mode. And
Hmm.
it's always interesting to hear how different mental health, I guess, practitioners use the deck because it's not meant to be limited to one form of, I guess, use. It's really
Hmm.
just up to how you want to use it, what is going
Yeah.
to give you the benefit of, talking and releasing and catharsis or anything like that. Like
Hmm.
when I created the guideline that comes with the deck, I really just wanted to say there are no rules. But it's hard for people to create something when there's nothing to go with it. Because I
Yeah.
mentioned to so many people, like, there's no rules, just do whatever you want. And they're like, well, what does that mean? Like, how do I use it then? And I'm like, use it however you want to use it. And then they were like, but should I like say it like, I'm like, okay, look, I'll give you some guidelines that aren't necessarily rules, but I ultimately want you to freestyle and use it the way that makes sense to you. Because
Yeah.
from the beta testing that I did, everybody ended up like after the first 5 questions, everybody ended up just freestyling and doing whatever it is that was comfortable for them and that allowed them to really talk from, a place of heart, like a place of affinity, and like made them feel safe
Hmm.
to discuss these things, because I got the people to do to record themselves while they were doing the beta testing. So I watched a lot of body language, and that's what made me, and that's how I condensed the questions down, because I could see that of the 150 that I originally started with, some of those questions were unnecessary to have. Like they just didn't, I guess, evoke a feeling or an emotion, or it just wasn't helpful to have in a conversation, like in a conversation setting. So a lot of them were reduced or removed because of that. But I guess I took this deck to a housewarming, and I didn't know anybody there except for the person that owned the house. And we all ended up like leaving very close. Like, I know all of you now. Like, and it's strange how you can actually fast track an emotional bond, a human connection with somebody, if you just give sufficient time and empathy and, you know, like just being cognizant of the people around you, and like even the body language and the usage of words really help like human connection. And that's ultimately what it is. It's a human connection project. Like that's the main focus of it, is just to connect with one another and to bolster that. And when the pandemic happened, we lost a lot of that. So
absolutely. You know, and it's funny because I've heard the term that, you know, I guess in maybe, you know, over the course of the years, and maybe in the last few years and stuff like that, and talking about, you know, well, why did this person do this? Or, you know, I'm hurt by this person, you know. And I remember someone telling me, you know, the thing is about people is that that those, or anyone for that matter, will only be able to meet someone as deeply as they're willing to meet themselves. And that really set me for a loop. And I really had to sit and think about that, you know, and I was like, that's true. That makes a lot of sense. And so I guess maybe because, so then I started thinking of just, you know, in general, myself and my upbringing, and the fact that, you know, like what I chose as my profession, what my experience is, and me being that type of person who's open to always talking and sharing and feelings and blah, 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 whatever, you know, it's like, well, yeah, most people aren't like that. It's rare to find somebody who's really open like that. And the more trauma that people have endured in their life, right, and have unhealed trauma, you know, that they've never sorted through, that maybe they just slap a Band-Aid over it, or they avoid it altogether because they swept it under the rug. You know, like I think even in my video with Priscilla, you know, and I talk about, and I think there was that meme that I saw with this little girl, and she's so cute, but she sees her shadow and she runs off screaming to the point where she falls down and everything, and it's hilarious, right? And the idea, it's like, but that's shadow work, right?
100%.
People are afraid to confront their shadows because it's dark, right? It's painful. You know, you've already gone through the trauma. Why do you want to dig that up again? But it's only when you work through it are you able to move past it, right? It just becomes this heavy, dark cloud that we carry. And now, to this day and age, we have so many, for generations, we have a lot of unhealed trauma, right? And then throw the pandemic and everything. Well, no wonder why everybody is up in arms, right? Like, everybody's sort of solution is to avoid it, to run away from it, just close the door, slam it shut. But those things will come back to haunt you, right? And you're a door does not shut a ghost away. They can walk through the door. And I'm at saying this only because a friend of mine introduced me to the show. It's the new show. I think they're in their second season. They might be doing their third season now, called Ghosts. And it's
I've heard of it.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. Not I haven't watched it though, but I've heard of it.
I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched it? It's hilarious. I've never seen it before, but I've been watched the 2 seasons in the last little while. Excuse me, and it's hilarious, right? But some of the things, even what they talk about, is even things that you find out that are uncovered from these ghosts in their history that they have passed, and it's not known about, and and how they're solving it through this person who haphazardly fell down the steps and suddenly she can talk to ghosts. So it's like, right, that's the show. But like, yeah, like, you're eventually at some point these things catch up to you, right? You have to work through them. So this is why, to me, like, this isn't why this deck is amazing to me. And as you guys have been talking and stuff, I decided to pull out the deck and split the deck and see what card came up. This is the card that came up. What is your stance on seeking professional help? Right? Like, this couldn't have been a better card for this video, and then I started thinking about, okay, so how would I build off of this? And I'm thinking, I would love to know, like, this, to me, this would be the perfect segue into, like, what other decks would you, use? For me, while I was sitting listening to you guys and I was thinking about it, and I pulled this card, and right away, based on this card, the deck that, to me, that I would now combine, use it, or build off of would be no other than Marianne Constantine's Reclaim Oracle. So, and that's all about feelings, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking now, what is your stance on seeking professional mental help? So if that card came up for anybody, or let's say that I just pull that card and that's the collective, what keeps a person stuck from seeking professional mental help? So
stigma, for sure.
Right? So that's a jumping point. Why not use the Reclaim Oracle, which is a prompting deck that's all about feelings? And like, so if I was to, well, I'm not going to shuffle it, but I'm just going to, like, quickly, okay, so what's the stance on seeking, what is your stance, or the world's stance on seeking professional mental help? What keeps a person stuck? What do I pull? Well, freedom. To me, okay, frustration, grief. Those are the three cards that I just, as I split the deck, these are what come up. The freedom of what? Is this a hindrance? The fact that I don't know, if we were to think of this as a barrier, not enough freedom, people not having enough time because they're living busy lives, and there's not, some of them may have the barrier that they don't have enough time in the day to now allot time for therapy, right? Or even the fact that therapy is something that we have to pay for most of the time, especially for seeking psychologists, for example, right? It's limited. Funding is limited. So we don't have the freedom to really explore this because mental health is still a stigma. It's still something that isn't accessible for everybody. Right? And so that can be a big a big barrier, the lack of freedom.
I would also add culture, and I would also add societal norms as well
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
of hindering freedom, especially
Yeah.
culture. Some cultures deem going to therapy, prohibited for their own culture, airing your dirty laundry in a way. Um, Talking about your feelings in some cultures is not a good thing. So that, and then in terms of societal norms, depending on, it could be also gender norms as well. If you're a man who seeks therapy, that could be hindering as well, because society deems men as needing to be strong and not display feelings, and a lot of toxic masculinity stuff as well. So those could also hinder freedom as well, in my opinion.
And you're right when you say that, Priscilla, because even in and there's another person I like to follow, Dr. Ebony Butler on Instagram.
Okay.
And she is a psychologist, practicing psychologist, but she also created a sort of therapeutic deck workbook um thing. And I forget the name of it. I'll put it up on the screen. And she has 3 different programs. It comes with a deck of cards. They're like this, they're in a tin, and they're the size of like, and they're like just like your deck, Ruth, have prompts. It comes with a journal. But the idea is it promoting, you know, especially in the Black community or any community with color, where the stigma is for seeking mental health is even more of a stigma, right? And it's harder for those type of people to even want to reach out for mental health help, or even just to even talk about it, right? So it was another form of, how do we break that stigma, how, getting people together. So, and that's,
Just to let you know, her decks are called My Therapy Cards.
Yeah,
I looked it up in case you wanted to know.
yes, thank you. Yeah, that name slipped my mind, but yeah, it's My Therapy Cards. And she has one for teens, she has one for men, and one for women. And then you can buy the whole set if you want, right? Like, and and stuff like that, depending on your family, like it's, so I like that. But even, freedom, frustration, it isn't easy to do therapy. The therapy work is hard work. You have to be, and you can easily get frustrated if you think that, well, this is too hard, I can't do this. Or, it's 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 even if it means that you have a family member who might need help because maybe they're suffering from addiction. How are you going to get them to do this? Like, you can't help someone if they're not willing to do the work. If they have to first decide to do that. And getting someone to do that can be very frustrating, especially if they're lost, they need help, right? And even if our own egos can get in our way and can make that process frustrating too, right?
I was just gonna add something to frustration, like you were saying, in regards to, like, you know, thinking that it's easy or that it's hard, or whatever it may be. That's something I actually get a lot of in the chat that I host for shadow work. A lot of people thinking that shadow work is going to be easy, but nothing in life is easy. You always have to put into the work into everything you do. So the fact that people have a misconception that therapy or shadow work or whatever you're doing is easy, that's where you end up getting stuck and getting like an obstacle or a challenge, because you're going into something with the mindset that it's going to be easy to change your ways and change your behavior and dive into deep matters of the mind and all those things. So having a mindset like that going into therapy or doing shadow work is is where you'll end up, say, getting frustrated because you're so hooked on the fact that, oh, this is going to be so easy. I'm just going to, talk it out about this and and not put any work in and not do anything else. But it's really, it's not. It takes a lot of work, and it's going to be hard. Definitely 100%. Nothing comes easy to anyone.
Yeah.
That's
Nothing
that's what
that
life is, in my opinion.
Mhm.
You have
nothing worthwhile that is ever comes easy, right?
exactly. If you want something worth, you want an outcome that's worth life and worth going forward with, then you have to put the work in, obviously. So, yeah.
I
Yeah.
will add to the frustration though,
Yes.
from people that have done therapy, like friends of mine that have done therapy and not had a
Mhm.
good time doing so, and
Yeah.
somewhat left with a state of frustration is that they weren't able to have a good enough connection with the therapist, or they were
Mm.
limited to the options of therapy, like of forms of therapy due to the cost of therapy. So
Yeah.
when you have X amount of money, you're somewhat limited to the type of therapy that um, I guess you can cover. And that
100%.
that also adds to the frustration of like when you go through 6 therapists in like an 8-week journey of trying to find somebody to really heal and identify certain things that are, creating discomfort within your life, it
Yeah.
is frustrating. And
Hmm.
there are different types of therapeutic models and modalities to choose from. And not everybody knows that, there's feminine therapy, there's like Adlerian therapy, there's all these different types of therapies which will help you, overcome or like live better with what's going on in your life. And
Yeah.
it's hard because not everybody has those resources. And then to, everybody in society, we only know a few different types of modalities. People are like, I'm either going with CBT or with psychodynamic or with just, you know, regular counseling. And
Yeah.
then even then, those forms don't really help move along the progress of where you want to be because you're just limited with funds, you're limited with income to pay for these types of treatments, you're limited with
Yeah.
time. Well, like, it's just a whole lot of frustrating things that happen along the way that really hinder the progress of where you want to be. And I think that also adds to the whole stigma around seeking mental health is because people are like, they're just there for money. One
Yeah.
of the most recent excuses that I had heard from somebody about why they won't go and see a therapist is because they believe that therapists are only there to take your money.
Yeah.
And then I said, but this is a very challenging job to be in because you then take on somebody else's emotions, you take on somebody else's problems. You then try to identify how to break those things down for,
Hmm.
to create a better pathway to move forward. And, you're provided with like homework and resources help you build forward and go through these things. And this person said, but they're only just there to take your money. Why would I go and see a therapist if they don't care about me? They just care about money. And I was like,
Mm.
well, you never know because you've never done it. And they're like,
Yeah.
I would never pay somebody $150 to just listen to me and then to not care about me. I was like, this is part of stigma.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
is not how the industry needs to be looked at from societal normality. Is that therapy shouldn't be viewed as just somebody that gets paid to listen to you because like we go through so much training to begin with. Like the three
Yeah.
years of a bachelor of psychology is
Hmm.
so intensive and so grueling that for the most part, I think my cohort, everybody in year one, there was 300 of us. When I graduated, there was only 20.
Yeah. A lot of people, they
So
don't
hard.
continue because it's really hard.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it.
yeah, it's hard, it's challenging.
I would
Yeah,
also
in
add,
my
I would,
opinion, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that in regards to like not finding like the therapist that's like right for you because of money and whatnot. I would also add, because that's 100% correct. I would also add, based on experiences that I've experienced with other people who have told me stories, it's also about finding a therapist that's not going to be judgmental. And I feel like not everyone out there is you know, some therapists are judgy. They're judgy about the things you're saying or whatnot. And I've heard like very bad stories from people who have gone to therapists and they have been nothing but judgmental towards the person. And you know, therapy is supposed to be an open, safe space, right? So I think there's that as well. Like, there's also the money, and there's also the fact that maybe they seem like maybe they don't care. Maybe there are therapists out there that just are in it for the money. They have someone come in and they don't give that sense that they're going to care about you as a patient or whatever. And then you have those therapists that are just going to judge every word that you say, which is not okay also, right? It's about not being discouraged and
Mhm.
just trying to find the person that's right for you. You
Yeah.
know, it'll take a long time, but hopefully eventually you'll get there, you know. That's really, you
Mhm.
just have to you have to have hope that you're going to find someone that's perfect for you.
Exactly. But
So
it's
don't give up. If you want therapy, don't give up on it.
yeah.
To me, that's almost like that's that letting that be a reason or a barrier to stop you. Well, that's almost that's a petty excuse, because and the reason why I would say that right is just because but one that anybody, we can all fall into any trap when, you know,
Mhm.
when we're fueled by fear or whatever the case may be, right? Bad experiences, things like that. It's the same reason, like, someone will say, well, I'm sick, but I'm not going to go to the doctor, because
Yeah.
all doctors there are just to take your money. Some are,
Mhm.
But
sure.
they do that a lot in the US. Look at the US. They do that a lot. People sometimes they're sick and something's wrong with them and they don't go to the doctor because they
Because
have to pay so much money and they think, why? Why am I going to do that? They're going to have
yeah,
to
so
pay
why?
$10,000 just for for tests or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah.
I understand why people wouldn't go to therapy because of the money. I get it. Like, I understand.
Yeah, and that's
I
a
would,
huge barrier.
yeah.
And that to me sucks, because it shouldn't be that, because the same way, like, our governments and things like that, they, you know, to a certain degree, we have coverage for, you know, things like basic health. Mental
Yeah.
health is also something that's just as basic.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
health, no matter how you look at it. But yeah, like, even, you know, when I was working full time and I had benefits too, the access to benefits for professional help is very limited. So the average, you know,
Depends
especially if you're visiting
depends on
us
your
at,
job and the coverage that they're paying for, right?
yeah, exactly, but on average there's a limited amount within that you're allowed within the
Yeah.
year, right?
Hmm.
So, like, you know, and if the average psychology visit is 100, let's say $110, sometimes your coverage for the year, if you will, may be only 300, maybe 500. If every session is between 110 and $150, how many sessions does that really you know, boil down to? Not enough for, right, depending on the person and what you're dealing with.
Hmm.
Three
Yeah.
sessions out of the year, no, not if you're like, you ain't gonna cover it in 3 hours. If
Yeah.
you're dealing with, you know, like,
Yeah.
childhood trauma, you ain't gonna solve that in 3 hours, like,
Yeah.
No.
you know what I mean? So that's also part of the frustration, because you cannot keep what you need consistent, right? So
Mhm.
then we have gaps and breakups, and, you know, on therapy and stuff like that for the average person. So, you know, that's another thing. The other card was grief that came up.
Mhm.
And to me, well, yeah, reliving trauma can be very, very difficult, right? So not having, not, you know, already sort of, when you think, okay, I've already dealt with it, already gone through you know, the grief process, whatever, now I'm over and done with, I'm not dealing with it anymore, but you're not healed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're, whatever that trauma is still influencing your decisions and your way of life to some degree, whether you know it on a conscious level or not, right? You know, so that's where, you know, to me, that's where, you know, the grief can very much be a hindrance to, you know, to that too. And especially if you've known other people who have gone to therapy and maybe it still wasn't enough for them, you know, and you've seen the decline, you witnessed, you know, the detriment to, you know, to their life or whatever. That can be a hindrance and something that would keep you away from wanting to do therapy. Why? It didn't help that person.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, but yeah, like
Yeah,
that.
there's that comparison. Like, if it didn't help that person, why is it going to help me? But the thing is, that person had a different experience than you might have if you go to therapy. And I think people are constantly comparing to others, but like, if you don't try it, maybe you'll have a different experience compared to that person, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, so that was one of the decks that, like I said, if I would, you know, working with your deck, this is what, you know, where I would see, you know, another deck being useful.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know, so Ruth, what deck would you or have you used in collaboration with yours that since you've been working with it and
Mm-hmm.
stuff?
I think so. For the most part, I like using Oracle decks with my deck just because when you have a question, it's nice to have a card that brings up a few keywords. Like instead of a definite meaning, whether it be upright or reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't say what Oracle deck in particular because I found that a lot of them just complement the questions in itself. So it's really just a matter of like how you want to, I guess, tackle shadow work or how you want to join forces of another deck to go hand in hand with this deck. And I don't think there's any um, wrong deck that can actually be paired with this because Johnny, who is under on Instagram as the Cosmic Wheel, sorry, Cosmic Mystic Carrot. Oh my God, I've actually forgotten his Instagram handle. But Johnny, he's done a lot of lives with a lot of deck creators. I'll have to tag him in this when you post it. But he at one point used to pair this deck with various tarot decks, and it would just help him. Like he was somebody that would do a lot of readings as well, and would integrate some of these questions into those readings just to help, I guess, provide more depth when it came to reading. Because sometimes I find that when you are reading for somebody, it can be kind of narrow or it can be too vague. And if you want to steer it in a particular direction, having a question to just help beef it up, I guess, does provide something a little bit more, like provide a little bit more introspection to where it is that you're trying to investigate. But for the most part, I would say pairing this with an oracle deck, and one that I have used is the Diaphanous deck by Tammy. This is a very small indie deck, so she
Sorry, what's the
only
name of the deck?
the Diaphanous Oracle, and it's a very small indie deck. So very small. I think she only produced 50 decks or 100, and I was able to manage to get one of them. And like she paints all of the artwork that's in there and has really like just really solid cards, like really solid keywords in her oracle deck. And I'll have to share that with you one time as well. But I found that her deck really, really complements this one.
I would love to know. Yeah, that way too. I can even put it in the description box because if it is says a deck that is still available, of course. But yeah, because indie decks can be tricky whether or not they are still available or not. Yours thankfully is still available, so that's
Yeah.
always a thing. Um, and of course the Reclaim Oracle is what in its third printing, I think. So, and that's the one by Marianne Costentin. So Priscilla, what deck would you pair with, if or have you yet? Have you gotten that far yet using the deck?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Did you hear what I?
Okay, because my internet is like going in and out. I don't know what's wrong with it. So I
Okay.
didn't hear your question. So if you could repeat the question.
So have you gotten far enough yet that working with Ruth with the emotional kaleidoscope? Is there a deck that you've used so far and paired with it that you are willing to share right now?
So I haven't paired anything with it yet, but I do have some ideas. So I have two decks that I typically use for shadow work that I really like, that I was thinking of pairing with it specifically. The first was the Wild Unknown Tarot. I have both the pocket edition as well as the full size. The full size is there on my shelf.
Yeah.
This is probably one of my I can we I'm sure everyone who knows me and who knows
Yeah.
me on Alana's channel all know that this is one of my I love Kim Cran. She's like one of my favorites. I have all her decks. So this is literally one of my favorites from her. So I thought it would be really a good pairing actually because of the fact that this deck has like pops of color. So there's like pops of color on the images that you have. Some are black and white, but some have color in them. So I was like, this would be a perfect pairing, obviously, because this deck is black and white, but has like pops of color within it. So I felt like it would complement it well in that regard. So there was this one. This one I use all the time for shadow work in terms of tarot. And then obviously I would use, her other decks. I have her archetypes oracle, which I really love as well. I feel like that would pair
Really well.
that deck is like really more psych based. So it has like the archetypal kind of way of doing things. And I think my internet just stopped working.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit.
Okay, there we go. I think it's connected again. I don't know what's going on. But I was saying that the archetypes oracle from Kim Cran's, the Wild Unknown Archetypes, that one has it's based on the archetypes that you would see in like Carl Jung psychology. So like what I would consider like archetypal shadow work. So that one's a good one that I would pair with this as well. I'm waiting for the pocket edition. It's supposed to be releasing next year because I like pocket decks. So yeah, and then obviously I needed to talk about this one. This one is the Earth, Moon, and Shadow Oracle. This is by Serafina Mesa, and artwork is done by Kat Amsel. This is an indie deck. It is currently out of print, but is going to be reprinted next year. So it next summer during the Kickstarter for the tarot deck that this goes with. There's going to be also an edition for this as well. And I think also she's doing a limited print run or something coming up, but it's going to be limited. So I don't know if anyone will be able to get a chance to get in, but if you miss out on the limited print run, it'll be coming back next year. But this one's one of my favorites. Actually got this from a friend. So my friend actually sent this to me because she got an extra copy by mistake. But I talk to the creator often, Serafina. She owns the company Ruin Vervain. And this one's great. It has both shadow and light. It has 3 keywords on it. And I feel like this would pair well with your deck because of the fact that it has a lot of colors. So I feel like it would pair well with the imagery that's on the front. And then you have different keywords that could tend or help with answering the questions, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So this is definitely a good one. I'm excited for her tarot deck that's coming out next year. That would also be probably a good pairing with your deck as well if someone wanted to use tarot instead of oracle.
Mhm.
Because I know Oracle is way more free flowing. Like you were saying
Yeah.
earlier about the structure, you were saying how like, oh, I didn't want like there's no rules, you could do what you wish. I actually wanted to make a comment on how like a lot of people struggle when it comes to things not having a specific structure.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when there's a structure, okay, you read the structure, you're like, okay, whatever, and then you get to do whatever you want. And I think that's
Yeah.
fine. Like I think that's great. And Oracle is like that. You have the guidebook. It's there if you want
It's
it,
a
you need
guide.
it.
It's just guidelines. Yeah.
Exactly. You could, but you don't have to
Practice.
go based on that. You can literally do whatever you want. You
Mhm.
don't need to go
Yeah.
based on, and I feel like Oracle is really free flowing like that. I find Tarot a little bit more difficult because, Tarot always had its own set structure and it has its own set meanings for each and every card and things like that. But I do feel like a lot of people will learn those meanings, but then to them it'll be like, okay, but then I'll develop my own way of reading
Mm.
the cards, right? So I feel like Oracle is way more free flowing in that regard, where yeah, sure, the person that did the deck, maybe they have, some structure that maybe they decided to make, but you don't ever need to follow that kind of structure.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's what I love about Oracle. And you were talking about how Oracle, you like how to pair that together and things like that. And I think I think Oracle is a great option, in my opinion, to pair with your deck because your deck is already kind of structured with the question itself. Why not
Mhm.
pair something that's a little bit more free flowing to
Yeah.
help get back to that structure? So I think that's great.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, so even actually, because I on Instagram, Rue or Serafina from of Rue and Vavain, she the limited release of the Earth, Moon, and Shadow Oracle, there's going to be 110 is it 111 copies,
Yeah.
I think, for the limited print run. And the
Hmm.
cool thing now is that the box is redone, so the guidebook and the deck fit in the same box, so that's
Yeah,
really
that's gonna be that's gonna be how it's gonna be. That's the changes that she made for the Kickstarter for next year, and that's why she's doing a limited print run
print
because I
run.
think I think some people want it probably sooner, especially people who missed out originally on the original campaign that they did this year in the beginning of this year. So
Mhm.
I think or last year rather, they did it last summer. Some people missed out and then they wanted to buy it, but then she ran out of stock so from her website. So I think that that's one of the reasons that she's doing it earlier, a limited edition print run, because they want it, I guess. There's demand.
You gotta give it to them.
And I feel will complements your deck very, very well
Me
too.
too.
You know, also, I can't wait for the Wisdom of Pooh tarot that come out, because I think that would be another thing that would pair beautifully with your deck. And I think why I say this is because
Mhm.
the fact that Winnie the Pooh is very much a staple of childhood.
Yep.
Right? Not only that, it's even the story behind the creation of Winnie the Pooh. And I don't know how many people know this, but one thing that I find really cool is the psychology aspect of all the characters
Yeah.
Yeah.
from Winnie the Pooh, right? So, like Eeyore is the one that's depressed all the time, right? I think Tigger might have ADHD, things like
Mhm.
that, right? And even the story behind um Christopher Robin, who created it, and why he created it and that whole sort of story behind it too, which I think is really cool. So I feel like all of those things are why it just everything complements each other to at least in my opinion, and I think it's great. Plus,
Yeah.
you've got the coloring and the gold on the, and it's white cardstock. Well, so is Wisdom of the Pooh Tarot. It's gonna complement each other very, very well. So,
Yeah,
that's
your deck is very luxurious with the
Yeah.
gilding and the foiling on
Yeah.
everything.
right. Like that was another
Oh,
thing, like, when I got it and they blew me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a very luxurious deck. Like,
Yeah, very fancy.
very fancy, you know.
um,
Um, Another deck that to me would, I think, go really well is, of course, This Might Hurt Tarot. I still have the indie edition. I actually only saw.
Oh, This Might Hurt Tarot. That would be a good pairing,
yeah.
actually. I have the mass market edition that
Yeah,
came out from Liminal 11.
yeah. And of course, I would love the limited edition, because the limited edition has the deck, but they also have an additional Oracle deck called This Might Help. So to
Yeah.
me, like, I feel like that would be like what's the word? Like a powerhouse of decks, if you will, to work with, right? Then This
Mm,
Might Hurt, This Might Help with the emotional kaleidoscope, like.
yeah. But she's coming out with a Lenormand with a Liminal 11. So maybe the Lenormand would be a good pairing with, instead of the Oracle that comes with the limited edition, maybe the Lenormand would be a good substitute.
Well, that, and yeah, then hopefully too, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
coming out next year. I found it in their catalog at the end. They have a Lenormand coming out from her.
oh,
Very cool. That's
well,
Yeah.
coming.
and then what excited me too is the fact that This Might Hurt and the emotional, like, at least the limited edition, or the indie,
Yeah.
it totally matches. Like, look at the
Yeah, they're
boxes,
both black boxes.
Mhm.
and with gold, like, with the gold on it, like,
Yeah, with the foiling.
so yeah, with the gold foiling, and so that's why I thought, even, This Might Hurt Tarot would be amazing. I wish I had taken this out of the bag already, but no, I didn't. Not this time.
You keep everything in bags in the box.
Well, it depends on the box. So if the cards are jiggle around in the box and it's not, um I'm happy with the emotional kaleidoscope, because the box is actually very snug fitted to the card. So there's
Yeah.
no, like, jiggling. So that doesn't need a bag. But the unfortunately, the This My Her does
Oh,
for me.
okay.
So yeah,
I
right.
typically I typically don't care if the cards are jiggling because they don't really go anywhere. They stay on
I
my
know they don't
shelves
go anywhere for me either, but it
unless
drives
I'm
me nuts
working with
when
them.
you pick it up and all the cards are shaking inside, and I'm like, no. So anyway, I'm a nerd that way. Okay, that's my peeve. Just, yeah, leave them. So, like, this might
Mhm.
hurt, and I think, like, it's beautiful cardstock. Like, this is a colored deck, of course, but I
Mhm.
feel like it just, even, I'm very much a big guidebook person too.
Mm.
And just even when I like reading the guidebook from This Might Hurt, and how I feel like it complements, your deck, I think it's perfect,
Yeah, her guidebook is really good for her deck.
yeah, yeah. So I really like that. Any other decks that you have, Priscilla?
Me? Me? Um, Let me think. I have a new deck that came into my collection. It's supposed to be shadow work based, but I haven't used it yet. I literally just unboxed it this morning, actually. It's called the Between the Worlds Shadow. What's it called? Shadow. Let me see if I can reach it. Eh. Shadow casting with Bone and Curio Oracle cards. This is the
Oh
deck.
wow.
Yeah, I got this from the publisher, Red Feather. They sent this to me to review for Spooky Month. and it's really, really good. I was actually really impressed. This is the guidebook. It is so
Oh
thick.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really thick book, and it's really interesting. So it's like a I don't know if anyone knows like bone casting sets. You have bones, you have little trinkets, they have usually
Mhm.
typically have charms and things in them. So that's pretty much what this is, but in an oracle deck form. And it's really interesting. So every card has like a short story associated with it. And then it gives you advice both upright and reversed. And the advice is very like shadow worky. And they also have reflection questions in them. I was thinking that this potentially could pair probably well with your deck in terms of like I don't know in terms of like answering the questions, but I feel like in terms of like maybe pinpointing a specific topic.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because there is a section in the guidebook where it tells you what like topics and like what cards can go with each topic. So I was
Mhm.
thinking that would be like an interesting thing, and then bringing in other decks into it as well. Um, like kind of like creating a deck family kind of thing. But I haven't worked with this deck. I literally just unboxed it this morning, so I'm not sure yet, but it's really cool based on what I've read in my video that I filmed this morning. Really, really good. I was really impressed by it. So this could be a good option, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
The other deck that I have that I would say would pair as a tarot deck to pair with the emotional kaleidoscope would be the new Dark Reflections tarot that came out by Lamucci Design. Um,
Yes, that one's really good. Britt from Cosmic Lunar Soul, she's another YouTuber. She just got that as well. So nice. It's so nice. I really want to get it. They have it on Amazon, but it's like $107.
but so I backed the Kickstarter.
Okay.
Um,
Mm.
and yeah, so the deck it's a very dark deck, so it's definitely very shadowy.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
right?
Great
And
for this time of month because
yeah,
October.
too, for of course, for sure,
Yeah.
right? So I really like that. But what the part that really again does it for me, when it comes to that deck and combining it with your deck, Ruth, is the fact that with the Kickstarter, not only did it come with a journal,
Mm.
right? Like
Mm.
blank journal,
Ooh, that's good.
but
Mhm.
right, and it's like this vegan leather type of
Nice.
thing, but it also came with a shadow work guidebook for tarot readers.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Right. So, and it dives into what, shadow work. There's different layouts and different spreads that come
well,
in here.
that's too bad that they don't sell that separately because that
Mm.
would probably be a really big hit, I think.
Yeah.
People are really getting into shadow work. Like if you see like
Yeah.
Amazon, there's like so many workbook listings and things like that. I know people are constantly looking for shadow workbooks on Amazon
Yeah.
and things like that. So that would probably be a really big hit if they added it to their storefront because Lamucci they have their own storefront on Amazon and I think they would probably get a lot of sales uh
Yeah.
if they made this like available to everyone.
Mhm.
Especially because here they have basic shadow work spread. There
Nice.
is uncovering the source spread. So like, depend like to me, like picking your cards, right? And depending on like if you were to use this as like a top card, and again going back to the same question, what is your stance on seeking professional help, right? Like if you were to start with that and then you wanted to um you any where was the okay, hold on. Where was that one? Because there
That would
was a
be that would be a good
uncovering the
one.
source spread. To
Yeah.
me, that would be a great spread now to dive in further to what is your stance on seeking professional help? What are some
Mhm.
of the barriers, right? You want to
Mhm.
uncover the source of the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Especially, again, if we use the 3 cards that I picked from the Reclaim Oracle, right? And now we want to dive in and do an actual spread using the tarot deck. Like, to me, that would be a phenomenal session right after, you know, therapy, and you want to, you know, continue on something, or even you don't have access to therapy, but you know how to read tarot and you want to dive in for yourself, you know, to you know, dive in a little bit deeper to uncover what is, you know, might be your barriers. Why not? Like, to me, those 3 decks would be, for in my opinion, would be ideal. Yours is the top deck that will then trickle down, right? Right, like I'm seeing, you know what, and I probably might take a picture just to put at the, you know, to show exactly what I mean, because I can't really show it like this, right? Like, I'm thinking something like this, then,
your
right?
card, Ruth's deck being at the top and then the cards at the bottom.
Exactly. And then following that by the one of the spreads out of this book, and you know, and doing that, like, that would be a phenomenal reading.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, so your deck would be the prompting to uncover, what should we talk about? And then, right? So that's what I really, really, really love about your deck. But even the decks that have recently, like I said, or have been in my collection, that I see that compare really, really well together, and would be like an amazing trio of decks, if you will, right? You know, and so that's what I really, you know, enjoy. And then I find that even when as I dive further into tarot and oracle, and I'm seeing all of these creative minds come out, you know, it's like, you guys amaze me. Like, it's like, and all I want to do is just, how did you come up with that? Please spill your entire life story. Like, I want to know, because this is fascinating to me. Like, you know, this is, to me, you know, that sense of community, and, you know, being communicative, and you know, exploring feelings, and exploring, you know, our thoughts and things like that is meaningful to me. That's what living and interacting with people is all about. You know, this sort of the this premise now, in this day and age where we live, with survival of the fittest, you know, and the competition central. Well, you know, I'm going to beat you, and I'm going to, you know, get that $1 million over you. No, that's not how it was supposed to be. That's not how we're supposed to live, but yet that's how we're living. And we're not realizing that that is what's triggering and furthering the trauma, you know, the chaos that we all are going through. And until we can learn to heal those things and work through those things, we're always going to be in this constant repetitive karmic cycle, if you will, of pain, right? And so, you know, that's why, you know, things like this, things like that you have created, I'm like, yes, we need more of this. It's about time. Where are more people like this? Like, we you know, and how can we come together to, like, heal? See, as I'm thinking of that now, all of a sudden Michael Jackson just rang in my mind. Heal the world, make it a better place. Right? You know, and I mean, but at least this is a start. You know, this is a step in the right direction. That and clearly it's something that's needed, because these are ancient things and ancient tools that have been used decades ago, that somehow along the way ended up getting, you know, stigma, you know, and you know, and oh, it's bad, or stay away from that, or whatever. Really and truly, it's only bad if you make it that way. If your intent is to do evil or bad things with these sacred tools, then that's what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
If you're putting it to good use for the betterment of ourselves and each other, well, only good things can possibly come for it or from it, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is paper. It's paper with words on it.
True.
We invented those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, the paper came from the trees, right? Like, okay, if we really want to get technical, right? But like, I feel like I have to say that though, because there's such, like I said, there's such a stigma around a lot of these things. There still is, right? You have a lot of people who are maybe, practicing divination and things like that. And they're probably coming from a very strict upbringing.
100%. That's why so many people are getting into divination because of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Right? Exactly. There's a reason why we're going through this awakening, I don't know, global world awakening, if you will, right?
Hmm.
Some people are with it, other people are not, and but either way you look at it, you have to you have to admit that the premise of us being in this world is to be able to cohabitate in the best possible way. How are we
Mm-hmm.
going to do that if we are just fighting all the time and arguing and condemning and whatever else you want to think of and that
Yeah.
we do to one another?
Yeah.
We're going to continue repeating these same patterns unless we, you know, meet ourselves as deeply as we can in order so
Mhm.
that way we can efficiently do that with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
You
we
know,
live in a very individualistic society too.
Yeah.
In Western, specifically Western, we are very individualistic. So we focus more on ourselves rather than the collective, rather than the community majority of the time. So sometimes it's hard to get into that mode where we're focused on like how we can be together rather than just ourselves compared to those people, you know? That's
yeah,
something that we definitely need to work on in terms of like the Western side of things, because being a collective is more of an Eastern thing than it is in the Western world, because we focus too much on ourselves and material things and I want this, I need this,
right?
me.
That's
What's the
so
latest
true.
step? How do I
Yeah.
get it?
That's so
Exactly.
true.
That's what happens when like you were saying like arguing with people and doing all these things, and that's really what our society specifically is though. So it's not really that surprising in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's not. You're right. You're absolutely right. It isn't. But I mean, it's annoying as hell. Like, I mean, right? Like, you just sometimes the things that we do to one another. Why?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
so, anyway, I like, again, mental health, love, connectivity, all that's
Hmm.
important to me. And, and as I dive, onto the other side now of my spirituality, combining everything, and falling in love with tarot and divination and, things like that. Like I said, this is meaningful to me, and
Hmm.
mental health and and wonderful minds that can create wonderful things that we can use to better ourselves and each other. I am all for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, I'm so glad that, we were able to get together today and do this video. Um, and just not only to highlight, something that to me is very important for all of us, mental health and, our current state in society,
Yeah.
but, even, things that give us joy, which is, connecting with one another and art and, you know spirituality, divination, like, right? And who doesn't love a good tarot deck or a good oracle deck, right? Like, this is what we're all about. So of course we're going to
100%.
talk about it. Any excuse, right? Any at least one
Oh
of these,
yeah, I'm here to talk about tarot, oracle all day long. I love it so much.
right? But why not getting the opportunity to do that, and and pick the fabulous minds of people that I admire, and stuff like that, and just have a glorious time talking about tarot. Why not, right?
Yeah.
So
So true.
yeah, and yeah, I wanted, and so can we expect anything more from you, Ruth? Like, I know I've asked this before. The last time
Alana, I think it's always you that wants to know what the next thing is, and
Give
I'm
us the
always like,
tea.
well, put me on the spot like that again. No, honestly, it's hard because currently I'm not working in a field that is conducive to the project that I want to create. So I'm in the very opposite field, so it's kind of like out of mind, out of sight. But it is something that is always with me that I'm constantly thinking about. Like there is a creative side of me that is always asking what we can do next. Like, what are we going to do next about this? Like, how do we complement or further, stem from the deck? And a lot of the times it's let's create a workbook, let's create a diary, let's create like a different deck that is specifically for like actual mental health awareness around depression, anxiety, other mental illnesses that, don't often get spoken about or aren't often, I guess, highlighted to help educate people around. Especially when people like to say things like, I'm so OCD about something, and really it's an expression nonetheless. However, people that actually do have OCD don't see it like that because it's something that's very hard to combat with.
Yeah.
So there are things like that that I think of that, potentially I can make a smaller deck that's only 30 cards that, either can be, I guess, done in tandem with the emotional Collidescope deck, with the introspection deck, or it's just something that is its own deck of its own. And then there are things where I'm like, maybe I should create some kind of like workshop around it. And I'm like, oh no, I can't do that. That's too much to commit to. Like, dude, stop that. But it's hard because like there's so much to do.
Yeah. You could create a workshop, but you could create instead of live workshop, you could create a recorded workshop where people pay and then they watch at their own pace. That could be an idea if you were thinking of doing something that didn't require so much work of it being live. At least if it's recorded, you can do that at your own pace and then launch it whenever you'd like.
Yeah, I definitely want to do something that integrates the deck, but with a more hands-on effect. Just because what I found is when I was doing, I guess, the follow-up of what happens after the Kickstarter, I reached out to maybe 50 people that were the original first 50 that had purchased the deck. And I had asked them how they went with their interactions and their engagement with the deck. And a lot of them actually said, I haven't had time to use it because I haven't found someone to use it with. And I said, well, you can use it for yourself. You don't need to have somebody with you to use it. You don't need to use it in any kind of setting where it's restrictive of its use. It honestly is use it to however it makes you feel comfortable and gives you the benefit of just talking or even just sharing or offloading or some form of catharsis in some kind of way. And they were like, oh wow, I didn't think of it like that. And then that just got me thinking like, well, I guess people need to know how to use this deck. And then that became a whole spiral in itself because I'm like, what do I do? Like, how should I how do I do this? Like, do I create a book? Do I create like a little video to send out to people? Like, how do I explain that you literally just use it however you want to use it? Like and that's where like we come back to the whole, well, if there's no rules, it's hard to freestyle off something without any general rules to go from, because we're so conditioned to having some form of limitation for us to create to a certain extent. Because there's only so much you can create if you have nothing to go off. There are only a few people that can actually create worlds out of nothing.
Yeah.
So, all right, I then have to come back to, how do we simplify this?
I would say, like, just from like my marketing side of things, because I work in marketing, I would say like social media is like probably the best tool in my opinion, and creating probably small videos for like Instagram, like reels or something, of just using the deck in different ways could be the best in my opinion of how you would want to market the deck, so people can understand that, yeah, you could use it with other people, maybe do a short video of you using it with someone else, or you can use it with this and maybe do a short video where you're doing a reading with like an oracle deck or whatever.
Exactly.
And that allows people to really be able to open their mind more to different perspectives of how you can use one deck for different things. You know, you can use it for journaling, you can use it to make spreads, you can use it to do a one-on-one thing with someone else that you want to talk to on a deeper level about this particular topic and things like that. And when you make small videos like that, or you have posts about things like that, it allows people to have a better understanding on how versatile a deck can actually be, in my opinion. So I did talk about all those things in my video. So hopefully when my video goes up on my YouTube channel, hopefully that will help. And of course, I do put it up on a bunch of different things, not only on my Instagram, but I also like share it on like Facebook groups where we're allowed to share our own videos and things like that. So hopefully people will be interested in your deck, and then maybe it'll get more of the word out, because I think it's just a matter of targeting specific groups of people and then getting the word out to see like maybe interest within a specific community. And since I'm specifically part of the tarot community, the tarot oracle divination community, maybe getting your deck out in this community with other people who follow me or who follow other people, maybe it just brings more general interest by those people, and then they can see, oh, this is a deck that's interesting, oh, I can use it for this purpose and that purpose, oh, I saw that on this person's channel and that person's channel and all that things. And then it just grows, you know. So that's really in my opinion, the best way to look at it in that case, if you really wanted people to have a better understanding. And though reels take less time, in my opinion, it's just a little short video. So maybe that could be helpful for you specifically.
That's why I think for me, this is why this video is important to me, and why I thought too, given the time of year, given the whole thing and what I'm about, why I thought this would be a perfect video. Plus, we did use the deck. We did use the deck, and we used a bunch of decks together, right? And through that. So I'm really hoping that, with that and seeing it in action, being used, with the three of us, and how we went through, even like we picked a card, we looked at the question, we tackled it together. I picked three cards, right? That for Marianne's deck, and we all went through that. Like that, to me, that's a perfect example of how this deck can be used, why I think it's a fabulous deck, and why more people need to know about it, and then we and can incorporate and use it. So I really hope that this can be, a stepping point, if you will. Well, besides the video we did before with Marianne, earlier this year, but even now, right? And then now we have Priscilla, who, I'm so happy got the deck and loves the deck.
Yeah, I love it. It's fantastic.
And she's the
Very
perfect
cool.
person who does reviews on decks, and the way she does her reviews, that's also what what I love and why I love her too. And my piggy's just all like, but even, it's just, it's, this is, to me, like, this is what it's all about. This is what makes me happy. And I'm so thankful that you guys, were able to spend the time and share your time to even, so we can come together, talk about mental health, talk about a wonderful deck that you created, and right, and just share the love,
100%.
and help each other. So, like, that's what, means the world to me. That's what, to me, what our world should be about, right? Like, again, here comes Michael Jackson. Heal the world with thanks.
You gotta make that the intro song and the outro song of this.
So, and I loved being able to do videos and collaborate with other people, and and being able to share. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for making this video on Thanksgiving weekend, and so that, and honor Global Mental Health Day, right? Because we all need that support. We've all needed that support. We still do. So in any way we can do that, it means the world to me. So I want to thank you, Ruth, for creating this deck, for your brilliant mind, for spending the time to do this video today and the last video. And I look forward to any other time in the future that we can collaborate together. Again, like, this is means a lot to me. And of course, Priscilla, I always have the greatest time with you, so
you're always welcome.
thank you so much. And of course, everything, all the decks that we talked about today will be in the description box. And of course, the ones that, were mentioned that we're not really sure, we'll figure it out and we'll get it in the description box. But, and of course, Ruth, the deck is still available. It is on Etsy. It unfortunately won't come with this fabulous thing anymore. This is just special to me. And whoever else got it before. But, again, it's that same artwork. And, as you were explaining it before, we started recording, this was part of the Kickstarter, and because I happen to be one of, the ones that, when this still was around, which is why I have it. And I love it because, to me, it's like I was saying before, any creator, when they, and if they pick a card and they send it along with the deck, like, to me, that's another special thing that I hang on to with my deck, and it's meaningful to me. Plus, there are key words on here. On this side we have wave work, and then on the other side we have wizard. So
it's cool.
And I now, as I'm showing this and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wizard of wave work. I mean, I'm a wizard of emotional therapy.
Maybe.
Look, I guess that makes sense.
I don't know. People come to me for all kinds of things, and I give love. Just hand it out. So yeah. Anyways, I will have everything. Again, thank you for joining me on my channel, both Priscilla and Ruth. And thank you guys for taking the time to join us today. This will premiere on the 10th, which is Global Mental Health Day. And of course, it will be a live video premiere. I haven't decided exactly what time of the day on the 10th that will be, but I will have that out, and whoever is free and would love to join the chat and chat with myself, and if Priscilla and Ruth have the time and will join too, that would be great. Yeah, so until next time, I am love. So are you. Take care of yourself and each other. And don't forget to live, listen, and learn. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
No matter what people